Welcome back. I've always heard that to Oklahomans, there are certain relationships in their lives that are very important to them. First off, their relationship with the Lord. Second off, their relationship with their wife. Third, their relationship with their family. And fourth, their relationship with their weatherman. And we get to sit down today with our weatherman, Mr. Travis Meyer. How are you doing today?
Well, that's so deep, Jager. I mean, I'm kind of feeling it right now. So that's a big deal.
Yeah. We both currently live in Stillwater now, so we're out of your viewing area right now. But we both grew up in Delaware County.
All right.
So we were very familiar growing up with watching you on the TV every time it got a little hairy, or every night at 5 o'clock news. So we're really honored to be able to have you on today.
Well, thank you very much, and it's just awesome that you guys would even take time to come on over here and talk to us or to me. So I appreciate you back.
When we reached out like almost a year ago,
yeah,
and been trying to make this work, and I got an email from Michelle about a month ago, and I called him. I was like, "You're never going to believe what just happened." So we're super excited to be here.
Yeah.
So.
Well, thanks. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So how long have you been a weatherman?
Okay.
In general, and here with News on 6?
Here 19 years.
Wow.
Just February is 19 years of 2024. So that's a long time. I worked at the other station, the ABC affiliate here in Tulsa, for about 22 years. So you go back, and you guys are going to find this out when you get to be my age. When you're over 60, you go, "What the heck happened at my time?" Because it's weird, because everybody's life just takes off and goes.
Yeah.
But mine, from the very beginning, I grew up on a farm in Nebraska, and so I had a deep sense of what it was like. It's like weather's number one priority. And God is right there too. Yeah. So he's like, right, God and then weather.
Yeah.
And then
yeah, exactly.
so it's a little bit different than that. But it was just the top of mind. We prayed for rain. We were thinking about it all the time. And it was, if it didn't work, you didn't get Christmas presents. I didn't get I didn't get a bicycle. I didn't get a motorcycle when I got older or something like that, because we didn't have any money. So, weather is extremely important to farmers, and so that's where I learned the respect for weather. And then I just took that. My mom was a school teacher forever, and so she says, you got to do something other than work for your dad all the time. And I said, I got to do something other than pray for rain. Because I said, that's all we do here. And then it ended up, I'm still praying all the time that I get the forecast right, so I'm still praying basically for rain and no rain. So I didn't get away from that. But that's how it started. And then I went to the University of Kansas, and they had a meteorology school, which was the closest place, even closer than the University of Nebraska, even though I grew up in Nebraska, that had a meteorology program. So that's why I went there, and then it just catapulted from there. I never wanted to be on TV. Number one, I always thought TV weather people were goofy, and they are. So that's beside the point there. But that's where most of that originated from, and I didn't really ever think I was going to wear a suit and tie every day of my life, because I didn't grow up that way. And so it's been interesting, and it's been a fast ride. That's all I'm going to tell you. It's a warning. It's a fast ride when you're doing something you love.
Yeah, sweet.
That's a warning, not a watch.
Yeah.
That's right. It's actually happening.
So you mentioned you grew up on a farm. Do you still farm and ranch, or?
I do. It's weird, because I said after I left the family farm, I said, I'm not going to raise any more cows, and then I do. And so that's kind of my pastime. It's kind of weird, because everybody has, maybe I'd say, a hobby. This is more than a hobby when you take care of animals, because that, a hobby doesn't mean you have to go out when it's 10 degrees outside and cold rain and freezing rain, or when it's 110 degrees outside or whatever. So it's a different kind of hobby, you could say. It's kind of a love of nature, and it's kind of to me it falls into, you love weather and you love the outdoors. And I've been trying to preach to kids when we go to schools. It's like, you got to get outside. Nobody gets away from their cell phone. I can't even get away from my cell phone, and I preach about getting away from just video screens and things like that, because it's like, you got to live a little bit other than just sit there and just become, dumb to a monitor, so to speak. And, people, they'll go out, play golf. They'll go out, take a trip sometime. But it's like, I want to be outside daily. I love it outside. And so that became more than a hobby to me, I guess you could say. And it's also a nice break from sitting in front of monitors all day. So if you do that for a living, which a lot of people do in today's world, there's not that many agriculture people. Even agriculture people now have monitors in their tractors that run their tractors and get stuff. So that's one of the things that that is just part of life. But that's what I've always tried to get a little break from because I love the weather, but I'd rather be in it sometimes. And staring at a cow and they're not saying anything to me, it's great.
Yeah. It's kind of funny that you brought up you guys going out to schools. I got a picture here to show you. Real quick. Let me
oh boy,
let me pull it up.
This could be for a while. Okay.
So in 5th grade, you came to my school. It was Kansas Elementary, and so that's from.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah. So I would think I was like I don't know what's 5th grade, 13 years old.
Like that.
And then here's a picture of Rhett here. Whenever he was,
I remember
16.
that. That wasn't that long ago.
That was maybe 4 or 5 years ago.
Yes.
Like yeah.
Grove.
Yeah. At the parade.
Yeah. Winter or Christmas parade.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, because it was cold that night.
It was.
I remember I was like, boy, this seasonally adjusted proper parade instead of being 80 degrees. I'll be darned. So we've crossed paths.
Yes, we have. Yes. A little fun fact also. I believe I think it was your son I actually played baseball against. Maybe.
Yeah.
He played for the Bixby Broncos whenever he played travel ball. We played you guys in Glenpool for a state tournament.
Yes.
And
you guys were little guys.
Yeah. It was a team called Kansas Cougars that I was on. We played together for the state championship.
What?
Yeah. So we've had a couple interactions there. It was kind of fun.
Yeah. My wife says there's 6 degrees of separation on everything, and I used to say whatever, but now I believe it.
Yeah.
People's paths cross.
Yeah.
Oh, that's too cool.
Yeah.
Did you guys win?
Yes, we did.
That's why I don't like you. My kid has never been the same since. Therapy.
I'm
been
sorry.
bad. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Everybody's a winner.
Yeah.
Just
all I know is I got a state championship out of it for Little League travel ball. So.
Hey, man. Oh, that's so funny. I'll be darned.
So a lot of what we focus on is music. We interview artists all the time.
Yeah.
And you do something with 99.5.
Yes.
Where you either rank the songs, or you give a list of songs, or what do you do exactly?
Big Country 99.5 is one of the radio stations here with Griffin Group. And I kind of fell in love with country music growing up just because you're a country bumpkin, so to speak, and you just kind of grow up with that. And your parents had music. And so when I grew up, it was basically the 60s and 70s. And so my parents were playing music from like 40s and 50s. And so you kind of it's kind of weird how, you listen to your parents' music sometimes. And so that takes you back to a whole nother era, so to speak, of music. So, and it was always country music. My folks would never listen to Elvis Presley or anything like that. It was always good old country music. And Dad would get mad if we had anything else on, or if I tried to listen to anything else. Like, get that crap out of the air. And I was like, okay. I was like, okay. I'm not gonna. I'll turn it back to your station, and we'll listen to that. See what the corn prices are. And anyway, so. It started out that I love that country music, or that style of music where you get new and old and kind of everything in between, because it's just a fun thing. And so I started picking out songs that I really liked, that were songs that my family and parents listened to, and then the songs I listened to that I can remember from the 60s and 70s. The 60s was kind of a crossover time because there's a lot of music that the 60s had some crazy music, and then the 70s had some funny country songs that were kind of, because the 70s were a weird time. And then the 80s, everybody loves 80s music, because my boys, will listen to 80s music still, and can listen, or, can pretty much sing along about every song that was done in the 80s.
Yeah.
And so, but going to country, I just went with that route because it was something close to my heart. Kind of my family, I have been fortunate. My folks have been with me for as long as I'm alive at this point. My folks are kind of getting a little bit older and failing right now, but we've always listened to country music. And so that kind of was the catalyst to say, and I said, hey, can we not play a couple of these songs that you guys don't play anymore? And they said, well, that's not a bad idea. And so we took it from there. And so then I get with one of the guys that's on there. His name's Tanner. And Tanner and I send him a list of all my songs. He helps me research them. We look and go back and see who played it, what they were doing, how many hits they had, all the history behind it. And then we play those songs. So we love it just because it gives us an opportunity to kind of go back, let some people hear some music that, because, when you're younger, you don't listen to any of that stuff, which is okay, but you're kind of missing out on a couple pretty cool things. So I thought that was cool, and it ended up working out really well for us.
So who are some of your favorite artists?
Well, George Strait is probably the number one guy. I just, his music, just great country, great, just about every song. Well, I mean, every song he puts together as a number one hit. So it's like, it's kind of like how people feel, the little Swifties, because everything Taylor Swift does is like, it's a hit. Don't worry about it. It's fun. They love it and all that. So George Strait is kind of my number one. And then since Garth was really a local guy, he's probably, I'd say, close to number two, because that was a good one. And then a lot of my guys that I really like kind of go back to the era of Waylon Jennings and I would say Willie Nelson to a certain degree, and because I was in college during their heyday, so to speak. So those were the songs we played when we were at bars and dancing and doing all the goofy fun things that sometimes you do when you're in college. So I was a cowboy back then. It wasn't fun being a cowboy when you're at University of Kansas, because University of Kansas is primarily pulls out of Kansas City. And so K-State was more of the, Oklahoma State, K-State, Nebraska, and you can get a few of them that are more of they had a little bit more of a, what should we say, a balanced group of college kids. But I was wearing a cowboy hat, and I was about the only one doing that, because it was like, what did they say? Why do you wear a cowboy hat? I don't know. I guess I'm in the wrong place. I'll have to go over to Manhattan, I guess.
That's hilarious. So, getting back to like your career in weather, I remember it was, I want to say either between 2016 and like 2019, there was one group of storms that came through Oklahoma, and I remember you were on the air because it was just severe weather after severe weather for like, I think it was like over 12 hours or something like that, and I was just wondering, is that, or is it another time that was been like some of the most like harrowing time in your time covering weather?
There have been a lot of times, but it was 2019, so you hit that. And 2019 was probably the most intense moment, other than I think there was a time in 1986 when we had a lot of flooding and there was storm after storm after storm, similar scenario. Yeah. But 2019, it's a little bit different because now the technology has allowed us to really do stuff, where in 1986 it was like, well, we just get reports from a few folks, and it's like, hey, the river's rising. Okay, what's going on? But you had to be up for severe weather, but you didn't have storm trackers. You didn't have helicopters. You didn't have a staff of meteorologists that could help you find a whole bunch of stuff. So from the standpoint of technology, from the standpoint of intensity in which we cover severe weather, it has changed dramatically. It's like medicine or anything else. I mean, there's so much more that a lot of people don't understand because you weren't really born back when I hate to say the dark ages, but when the microwave was invented, when I first got a microwave, I was like, what the heck is this? And everybody's like, microwaves, you get it when the time you're a baby. But as far as we were concerned, 2019 is probably and I mentioned it in a staff meeting we had with our storm trackers recently. It was the only time I ever saw our staff, because everybody that's a weather person usually is a weather nerd. And so the more the crazy weather, the happier everybody is, because it's such a challenge. And it's like, let's take this on. Let's see what we can do. Let's see where the storm is. Because it's a rush in your brain, because you're trying to find what's going on. It's a needle in a haystack kind of thing. Now you have the equipment to do it. I'll tell you, like in 1986, the Morris tornado, I think that was 86. I got 84 and 86 mixed up in my brain right now. 86 was a flood, but I think also 1986 was a kind of a changeover for me, because Morris, Oklahoma, just south of Tulsa, I was working with a great meteorologist named Don Woods, who drew a cartoon character called Gusty. And so you have to look it up sometime. It's the state cartoon character, and he for the state. And then it was just also an amazing meteorologist, Christian guy, was in the Navy and came back and started working in eastern Oklahoma. So some folks don't know a whole lot about him, but he was fantastic. But anyway, we had a little teletype. It typed out about 50 words a minute, but it said, hey, large hail in Okmulgee, and so watch out. We have a severe thunderstorm warning for you guys. Watch out for a baseball-sized hail or possibly larger. So I hand him the warning, and he says it on the air. Right at that time, though, we didn't know it, but it already turned into a tornado, because the radars we were using, we actually got a radar off of a World War II airplane.
Really?
That when the radars were first being invented, was basically the best radars happened starting in the 60s, but we had one like from the 50s, and so there was a few radars back in the 40s. But anyway, during the World War, they had just kind of a basic concept one. So we had a basic concept one to say we had a radar, but it didn't see where there was a tornado. So while we're saying there's hail, there's actually a tornado, and it's wiping out Morris, Oklahoma, and 9 people died there. And the Tulsa World at the time went back, and they interviewed the families, and they talked about each individual person who died in that. And so it was almost like it hit me really hard, because it's like, my gosh, there's got to be a better way to do this. This is crazy, because we're talking about hail. Put your pickup in the garage so it doesn't get hail on it, and people are dying. And so I said, God willing, someday somebody's going to come up with something better. So it wasn't too much longer when radar started advance and get so much better. And so that was kind of the catalyst for me to kind of change my mentality and thought processes, like, oh, I hope something happens soon. And so it wasn't long after that, and radars became much better. And then we get to 2019, and it's like nonstop severe weather. There's a tornado almost every night someplace, especially here in eastern Oklahoma. We were impacted a lot more than central and western Oklahoma. Usually western Oklahoma gets more. But any place from about I-35 east where it's just hammered on a nightly basis. And so we were on the air nonstop, and some of the longest times, were 10 hours, and there was one time that was almost 12 hours. That is a long time to talk at this level, like we're talking right now, because your voice just can't handle it for that long. So fortunately, there's a lot of other staff meteorologists that I could just take a break and go get a throat lozenge. I'd drink and try to stay hydrated, because it's like you couldn't move. You didn't really leave where you were. You didn't really eat, because you're kind of on this high at that point, because everything's going on. You don't want anybody to get hurt. So it's a whole different world, and your mind is working a whole different way. And then you get done with that, and you pretty much collapse, because you're like, wow. It's not like a football game, but it is mentally and kind of physically to a certain degree. You've given it all, and then you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I can stand up. So those don't happen too often, fortunately. But when they do happen, they're really intense, and then it's great when you actually have a staff. Compared to the 80s, you're kind of like you're on an island by yourself and praying to God nobody's getting hurt. But and that didn't happen. And so now it's a lot better, and people have better warnings, and you know that, because you see that popping up on your cell phone and everything else.
I just remember, like, from that 2019 time, everybody, like, on Facebook or social media was like it's getting really intense when Travis Meyer has his coat off. He's been on there for 8 hours.
The sleeves are rolled up.
The sleeves are rolled up. It's getting really intense.
I didn't know what a meme was at that point, because I just didn't really follow it too much. And social media's obviously taken off crazy here in the last 5 to 10 years compared to where it was before. And so the memes were coming out, and there was goofy, funny memes that were coming out. They said, "Did you see this?" And I'm like, "What is that?" I said, "What is that? Where did you get that?" So that's a meme. I said, "What?" I said, I called them memes, because I thought they were memes when I first saw them. I didn't have any idea meme. So after I saw some of those, I was like, some people have way too much, what should we say, extra time, or else too much, or too intelligent, because they were doing some crazy stuff that I couldn't even understand. So it was an interesting time. History repeats itself, so I know someday in the future we're going to have to go through this again, because it's Oklahoma, and we have our ups, we have our downs, and every once in a while things just go crazy.
During that 2019 van that you were talking about, we were in our storm shelter outside. It's like an underground one, and a tree fell on the door.
Oh.
We heard this, like, thud, and so 15 minutes goes by or whatever. We try to get out, and the door
can't get out,
jammed shut. So we had to call somebody. We ended up being in there for like 4 hours until they could come over and cut the tree off and get us out of there. But but we had you streaming on the on our cell phone or something down there.
Yeah, some of the apps,
And my grandma, she was like, "How are you watching that down here?" She's like, "How are you have Travis on there down here?"
It is wild. I mean, because my dad's 95, and so he streams the weather at night, and is able to pick up our newscast. And he's what those people that are that age have gone through, and what they've seen from almost horse and buggy times. I mean, basically 100 years ago to now, it's mind-boggling. And, and that goes back to the statistics and how much information is available now to us, where I feel so much better about people. If you want it, you can have that information, if you're an OSU student, and because we've had tornadoes on the campus of OSU, and there's been some damage, and it can happen every spring. It can happen anytime. And so the more that, they have the opportunity to see what's going on real fast and then make decisions, that's huge. And, before it was like, boy, sure hope they're okay. Sure hope the sirens are going off. And that's all we could do. I hope they're watching TV. And now I feel a lot better. I mean, and it'll get better, but I mean, we're at a pretty good point now.
So coming from like a viewer standpoint and asking the guy we watch on TV, tell us when we need to get in the Frady hole or whatever. What was something that you would like people to know when watching the weather, when to like really hunker down or when to just kind of watch and wait?
That's a good question. And there's two parts to this. And I'll say the first part is you have to take the responsibility for yourself, first of all, because if for some chance, and I don't want to say, it's like, we're not God. I mean, so it's kind of like we don't want to preach to the point where we're saying, watch us, we will save you. Because that's not true. Because every once in a while, there's something that'll get past us. Even though the technology, and I just mentioned technology is incredible, I feel great about it compared to where we have been. It's not perfect. You know, if it's 100%, I'd say, hey, don't worry about it, we got you. But the biggest problem is the fact that occasionally there will be a few hooks where you go, what just happened?
Yeah.
And so it'll catch us even off guard that it's like, that shouldn't happen. But that's just because we didn't understand it totally. So what I'm saying is people have to take responsibility, number one, for themselves, and we are going to do everything we can to make sure that you have the information you need. The biggest thing is my daughter ended up being afraid of weather. And she's in her 30s now, and she's been afraid of weather, and she's afraid of weather because I was always gone, and so there was always never somebody. Every time there's a storm, that she's trying to figure out what to do, and so my wife would take kids down, and we go to the cellar, and and then they would hope that everything was okay, and say, "Where's Dad? Where's Dad?" And it's like, "Well, he's working. So I'd try to give him a call, but if there was a tornado, I couldn't always call him.
Yeah,
Say, "Hey, take cover." And so every once in a while I get in a lot of trouble. He's like, "You didn't call us." It's like, I couldn't on TV, and I'm not gonna. So the biggest thing we do is as soon as there's a priority and a storm becomes to a point where we think it's going to be causing either tremendous amount of lightning, baseball, softball size hail, or tornado. We know that those are kind of life events where it gets to the point where it gets extremely dangerous. So we will stay on the air at that point nonstop. So if you ever see us on the air nonstop, then that's a number one sign that it's like, something pretty big's going on, or otherwise they wouldn't be continuously streaming and going on the air all the time. And so the other thing is, then you got to kind of pay attention. Is that your area? Number one, because a lot of people are not geographically super literate, because you don't have to be, because Waze is telling you where to go. And, if I just like, take me to, help me get to my work. I've gone to work 1,000 times, but to help me get there, because, it's like traffic and all that. So you kind of get used to just being told how to get to places and do stuff. But what we want people to do is be independent enough to say, hey, is this my area? Yes, it's under warning. And there's a watch. It's like, we're just going to watch out. And then there's a warning. There's an actual, hey, this is really happening. Once you hear warning, that means something is actually happening. It's not just maybe going to happen. And so what we try to do is get people to that point. But just to answer your question, I went all over it, but as soon as we're on the air and we try to give information, we try to stay calm. And you'll be able to see from Oklahoma City, our sister station, David Payne. He and I, we are best friends, but he and I do weather totally different. And he is much more intense than we are. We try to maintain a certain just kind of level amount. And he is much more intense because the viewers there in the Oklahoma City area demand it, because they've been through so many more tornadoes than we have. And they said, "What's going on? We got to know." And so if he's getting amped up there, then they know that, hey, things are getting pretty rocky. And if I lived in Moore, Oklahoma, I would have my TV on all the time. Every time I saw clouds, like, what the heck is going on?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. But here we haven't, fortunately for Eastern Oklahoma, we haven't had that many storms.
Yeah.
So we haven't had as big of an intense situation going on as often. So we don't need a lot more therapy.
Yeah.
And so that kind of helps out. So we're just saying, we're going to do everything. We're trying to do it calm. And you won't hear me, if I get uptight, then that's a really bad storm, because we try to make it so that people can take that information and not worry about us going, "Oh my God, it's tornado, you gotta go cover, take cover." Because once you go to that level, then it's like, you're freaking me out. Stop. You're not helping me.
I think that's one of the reasons people love watching you, is because you're able to maintain a calm sense about you and everything while it's going on.
Well, thanks.
Real quick, I know you got to get going, but Trav's Coats for Kids, you want to talk about that real quick?
Sure.
And how people can help out with that?
OSU Athletics helped us out this past year.
Really? That's
awesome. So we really loved it as part of their NIL thing. And so we were blessed to have some of the folks do that there. What we do is every fall, and we try to kick it off basically right near the November Thanksgiving time period. We like to get folks who have extra, especially when they're doing their fall cleaning. Even even if you're doing spring cleaning, because right now I'm doing spring cleaning because I just got stuff all over, and I have like 4 coats. I said I didn't even know I had those 4 coats, but it's weird because Oklahoma is just like everybody needs a coat once you get north of us. Everybody needs that. Yeah. Here, you need a coat just for about a month out of the year, and then you don't really think about it a whole lot. And so what we're trying to do is make sure that there's plenty of coats, because we're getting more and more people that really, have financial situations, and especially the way situations are, maybe with more people, with immigration, there might be a lot of people that have no home, no whatever. We have Catholic Charities that have come to the assistance of a lot of people. We have First Baptist in Tulsa that have come to assistance. And so we have a lot of groups that are trying to help all these people. Well, then we have a cleaner, which is really Yale cleaners, they're called, and they're just amazing because they'll take these coats and then they'll clean them, and then they will give them out to the First Baptist Church. It used to be Catholic Charities, but the First Baptist downtown. And then we find all these folks that actually, have a tough time, lost a job, don't have a job, have issues, have kids that don't have clothing because they can't afford buying a $150 or $300 or whatever it is, a starter jacket or whatever, and it's just crazy how much some of the jackets cost and all that. And so what we're trying to do is make sure that they have the coats when they need them. And that's what this project is. So anytime you have and it doesn't have to be a kid, it could be you guys' age, could be older people, like me, but we really look for infants, especially infants that are small, anywhere that's for a year or less, and then 1 to 5 to 6 years of age. Those are the ones that are the biggest ones. So we really want folks to be thinking about that. If they're, instead of throwing a coat away and say, boy, we don't need that anymore. If it's gently used, we want them to just say, hey, we can take it into a Yale's Cleaners. They'll clean it. And if there's something wrong with it, they can pretty much set it up to where they'll be able to give it out or clean it and give it out to the folks that need it, or else, put it someplace else that maybe if it's not good enough to be used. But if you have anything like that, extra large, those are important too, because there aren't enough extra large or small kid stuff. And it's a program we've done for a long time, and I love it. And I know seasons, when it's hot, you don't really think about it, but instead of tossing a coat, just toss it to the cleaners, Yale cleaners, and it'd be good. So thank you for bringing that up, because it's a lot of folks just, they'll really preach there right at the end, or, right before we need them, because that's when our season is, when people are thinking about it. Yeah. So that's what we like to have.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Well, we know you got to get going, so we'll let you get going. But we can't thank you enough for taking some time to sit down with us. For us, it's been a really cool experience, and I'm sure for everybody watching as well. So,
yes. Well, and I appreciate you guys so much, and it's so great crossing paths again.
Yes.
Little did I know that we were knowing each other before that. So you guys keep up your good work as well, and we're going to try to make it through a couple storm seasons. We'll see what happens here.
All right, thank you.
Thank you again.